Even though it's only September, this is the time of year where Sephora starts bombarding us with holiday value sets. And while some of them might look great on paper, a lot of them are actually not a good deal. But not always for the reasons that you think. So today I want to talk about why so many value sets are actually kind of a joke. For the past 3 or 4 years now, I've been doing videos on my channel breaking down the actual value of these sets at Sephora. Because sometimes they straight up lie and I go in and do the math and it is incorrect. Or other times they just don't list the value, they keep it kind of vague, and then I go in and I do the math and I find out they were doing that because it's actually not a deal. So needless to say, I've been very immersed in these value sets over the years, and there are a lot of takeaways that I've learned about what sets might be worth picking up, even though in general, I think a lot of them are worth skipping. So we're going to start with all the sets that I think are worth skipping. I'm gonna tell you the type of sets that I think you should skip, but I'll also give some real examples that are for sale this year. And then the second half of the video is where I will share the few scenarios where I actually think it makes sense and the sets that I do think are worth picking up. Obviously, the number one thing to skip is if the set doesn't even save you money. Like I said, sometimes when you break down the math, it's actually not a savings. The textbook example here is a set that launches without fail every single year from Mario Badescu. The cost to buy the set is the exact same price that you would spend if you bought the number of sprays. So we've got 3 facial sprays for $24, which is the exact same price you would pay if you just randomly picked up 3 of the facial sprays for $8 a piece. That would also equal $24. You are literally not saving any money. Which seems obvious, like of course I'm not gonna buy that, but it's easy to just be in the store and you see this box that says value set and it's all decorated with a holiday theming and you're like, oh cool, let me buy that. But in this case, there's literally no savings. I've even seen sets in the past where they cost more to buy it in the set. But that feels obvious, like okay, yeah, Kelly, duh. Obviously I'm not gonna buy a set where there's no savings. But I also recommend skipping the sets where there are shades that you wouldn't use. And these can be so tempting, especially if the value is pretty high. So an example I have here is the Too Faced set with their Kissing Jelly lip oils. It comes with 2 of these glosses and it's a $44 value for $29. So you think, okay, that's a great savings, I'm gonna pick that up. But if you're looking at these shades and thinking, I would never wear the blue one, it's not worth picking up. If you're only gonna wear the pink shade, just buy the pink shade. It's only $22. Why spend more to also get the blue shade that you're not going to wear? I will say these like blue lip glosses don't really show up blue on the lips. They're kind of clear, but I still personally don't like blue lip colors. Another example falling under this is this set from Lash. This is their mini lip glowy balm set, and it includes 4 of their lip balms. It is a $38 value for $25. And you see that and you think, okay, steal. I know so many of us, myself included, are obsessed with any type of lip balm right now. But are you going to wear the red shade and the purple shade? That is the question. I mean, the other ones too, but I feel like generally those are the shades from a set like this that don't get worn as much. And then you're buying the set and 1 or 2 of the shades you might not even be using. The next set you should skip is the one that is a good value, but you don't actually want everything in it. I find this to be the case with the very high value sets, the ones that are above $100. For example, the Sol de Janeiro Body Care Extravaganza Celebration Gift Set. This one retails for $238, but it is a $367 value, so you're getting over $100 of value on this. Seems like a great deal, especially if you're a Sol de Janeiro lover. I know I am, but I'm looking at this set and I'm like, do I actually want everything in this set? Or is it just a quote unquote great deal from a brand that I like? And then when I break it down even further and I'm looking at the included products, specifically the body sprays, half of them I don't even like. I like 59 and 40, but I don't like 68 or 76. And then I'm going through and looking at the other body products and thinking, I actually don't want so many of these. It just seems like a great value because there's so much savings there. But it's not a savings if you weren't gonna spend that money. You still spent over $200 that you weren't gonna spend. That's like the mindset I always need to remind myself of, because it's so easy to see a quote unquote savings on something and say like, oh, well, I saved $100 on this. When in reality, you really didn't save $100. You actually spent $238 because you weren't gonna buy the set to begin with. This next theme theme is one that I fall for often, and I have to talk myself out of it and think, no, Kelly, that's actually not going to be a good purchase for you. It's the I only want a few things from this set purchase. Okay, it's really tempting, especially on the Sephora favorite sets, to see a few standout products that you've had your eye on and think, okay, done, I'm gonna buy the set because then I'll get that product. Plus, I have this bonus of all these other products. Which, okay, but 9 times out of 10, when I actually consider the one product from the set that I want, I could just go buy the actual full-size version of that product, have the full size, spend less than I would to buy this set, and not have all this other random junk that I didn't really want to begin with. And hey, depending on you and your makeup routine and the products that you have, you might find a use for these products, and we'll dive into that more in the second half of the video when I talk about the sets I think are worth picking up. But especially if you're a big makeup lover, I challenge you to think of a lot of these sets similarly to subscription boxes. As we know, subscription boxes have kind of fallen out of popularity in beauty, but it used to be all the rage in the beauty community. People loved a BoxyCharm unboxing, an Ipsy bag. My Midwest accent really came out there on the word bag. Ipsy bag, Birchbox, all of the above. I would know I've been subscribed to all of them at some point. But the reason I stopped subscribing to subscription boxes was I realized I was getting all this junk. I'll put in air quotes. It's not junk, but it felt that way to me because it was a bunch of products I didn't need, I didn't have a use for, and now I have all these random minis that I didn't really want. And for me, when it came to the money I was spending on subscription boxes, I realized it made way more sense to take that money and maybe just put it into a beauty budget to allot myself each month or every few months to make the purchases that I actually want instead of getting a bunch of random stuff that I don't necessarily want. That's kind of how I look at a lot of these favorite sets. So even though the Sephora favorite sets, I will say, are probably some of the better deals that are available, be really honest with yourself about what you want and what you would use, okay? So a set that was really standing out to me was the Holiday Must-Have Value set because I've been wanting to try the Blurring Balm from Danessa Myricks, and I'm like, okay, that's in it. Maybe I get this set and I can finally try it out. And it's really tempting when you see that the set is $69 but has $229 of value in it. I'm like, okay, done. But then when I start thinking logically, I'm like, okay, wait, I could just buy the actual full-size version of that Danessa Myricks product I've been wanting for $39, spend less, and have the actual product that I want in a full size instead of a mini where I'll probably end up just buying the full size in the future anyways. The next one is also maybe adjacent to the idea of what I was sharing about subscription boxes, and that's advent calendars. Ooh, this was tough to put on my list because I do love an advent calendar. I still do like to buy like a chocolate one each year or something fun like that, but I just want to call out that the beauty ones are so hit or miss. Some of them there is a good value there, but a lot of them, and specifically the ones from the Sephora collection brand, you should skip. Okay, the Sephora collection advent calendar is historically one of the worst beauty advent calendars every single year, and I'm even looking at the one they're selling right now. It's $55. They claim it is a $163 value, but this advent calendar is full of junk, okay? You'll open it up, it's like a ponytail, a loofah, like sure, there are things you might use, but it's like now at the end of this, you have 31 days, or how many days is it? 25? Okay, 24 days actually. 24 days of random stuff that you didn't even want. I feel like with advent calendars, a lot of it, the allure is the excitement of every day. And if that's you, there are so many creators that do advent calendar unboxings, and I feel like those can satiate that craving. Lauren May Beauty, love Lauren so much. She does an advent calendar unboxing series every year. If you need to just get that out of your system, go watch her videos. They're entertaining. You get the excitement of like, oh, what's in the box? But you don't have to spend a few $100s for random products that you didn't actually want. Okay, next up in the hot seat, minis when you could just buy a full size. I know if you've watched my content for a while now, you're probably shocked to hear those words come out of my mouth because I'm so pro mini 90% of the time. But this is the exception, and let me explain. I'm going to explain specifically with this set from Kosas, their mini Blush is Life set. This is a blush trio. These are the sets that tend to be the most alluring for a lot of people, myself included, because I'm like, oh, 3 blushes is better than 1. That's not always true, especially if these are not the 3 shades you want. This set initially tempted me too, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, they're kind of all like pinky reds. That's not the blush shade that I tend to reach for. But then in my mind, I'm like, but it's 3 blushes, that's better than 1. In this scenario, I think a better use of your money would be to buy a full-size version of that Kosas blush if that's what you're pining after. The full-size version is $29. You're going to save $4 and get a full-size version of the shade you actually like and actually will use, instead of spending more to have a bunch of minis that still weren't really what you wanted to begin with because you couldn't pick out the shade. Okay, the last one on my don't buy list is the one that I feel the most passionately about. Perfume discovery sets. Perfume discovery sets are a scam. Now there's one exception there, and I'll explain that when we get to the next part of the video, but 90% of the time, if it's coming from a fragrance brand, you should skip it. Okay, an example I have pulled up right here, the Boy Smells Fragrance Discovery Set. You get 5 1.5 milliliter little baby samples, and it is $30. $30, okay, everything's gone up in price these days. You can't get a ton for $30, but that's a substantial amount to pay for 5 samples that would otherwise be free. These are the free samples that you get at Sephora. And I'm not even talking about the point perks that you're gonna spend 100 points on. I'm talking about the actual free stuff that they just throw into your bag. You shouldn't be paying for this. And I do know with perfume, you want to wear something on your skin to see how it sits on you, because that does make a difference. But see if you can go into the store and just ask for a sample. They'll probably give you one and you don't have to spend $30 on it. Those are the sets I think are worth skipping, but let's talk about the sets that I think might be worth picking up. The first one is the Holy Grail product in a value set. Okay. Perfect example here, the Tower 28 Make Waves Mascara Duo. If that's your Holy Grail mascara, this is a PSA that you can get a 2-pack right now for $29. It's a $40 value. If that's already your go-to mascara and every time you use it up, you run out and repurchase it, it makes perfect sense for you to buy this set. And those are the types of value sets that I think are worth picking up. I'll link the good sets, the ones that according to me are good, in the description box down below if you're shopping. Like I said, a lot of them I don't think are worth picking up, but there are a few that I do think make a lot of sense, and that is one of them, that Tower 28 set. The next one is the gift set that you're going to split between people. So this admittedly could apply to many of the ones I talked about earlier in this video. Going back to that massive Sol de Janeiro bundle, I don't know if that makes the most sense for one person to purchase just for themselves, because you're going to be getting a lot of product that you may or may not be using. But if you have a lot of people on your list that you're shopping for, that could be a lot of bang for your buck to buy this one set, split it up amongst other gifts. Those are the scenarios where I'm like, yeah, a value set is genius. I feel the same way about minis for stocking stuffers. That being said, I know people have very different approaches when it comes to stockings. I know many of you have told me before, you're like, I'm not putting makeup in a stocking. That's for like candy, a scrunchie. But if you do like to put beauty in stockings, I do feel like the minis are perfect for that. And that might be a scenario where buying that larger set makes a bit more sense if you're using it more for gifting purposes. But returning to the times where I do think it makes sense to buy a perfume discovery set is when you're buying the Sephora favorites ones, because most of theirs come with a redeemable voucher. Now, definitely check, make sure that that is what you're buying, but a lot of their sets, like their Lash sets, most of their perfume sets, have a voucher to redeem a full size or a mini size. Check the description. Now, to clarify, I'm not saying sets sold at Sephora, I'm saying the Sephora favorite sets that Sephora makes. The Lash set is another one that they do every year. This is their Lash Stash to Go makeup value set, and it includes 5 mini mascaras for $29. I love a mini mascara to begin with, but after you've tried all 5 and you choose your favorite, you have a voucher to redeem for a full size. And most of these are right around $29. So you're basically just paying for the one mascara, but you're also getting the 5 minis. Now, that being said, if you know you hate a few of the mascaras in the set, maybe this doesn't make sense for you, or if there are some that you weren't that interested in, it could be something to consider, but generally these sets tend to be a better value. Same for the fragrance sets. So often the product you are redeeming for cost more than you paid for the set. So these can be a really great deal. Again, just very generally speaking, over the years, I've found that the Sephora favorite sets tend to be a little better than the sets being put out by the brands. The value is oftentimes higher. Again, you gotta account for what the value might be for you, but there's typically a pretty decent savings in there. And these Sephora favorite sets aren't just holiday exclusive. like they do them periodically throughout the year, but they can sell out pretty fast. So I want to call that out as well. If you enjoyed this, I recently posted 2 other kind of de-influency type of videos. I'll have them right here. You can click on the screen. If you're new, be sure to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.